Today I have just this big mishmash of different stories that I want to cover regarding the housing market and the economy. And one thing that's difficult whenever I have so many stories like this to talk about in one video is just trying to figure out, what am I going to call it? What's the title of this video going to be? Because believe it or not, the number one thing that influences whether or not you will watch this video is what I call it. It can be the same exact video, but if I call it A, maybe everyone will watch it, but if I call it B, no one will watch it, even though it's about the same exact topics. So hopefully you like the title and you'll find this one interesting. But I knew after DJ sent me this story that this had to be the headliner of this video and kind of the first thing I wanted to start with, because one thing that we have been talking about a lot is how crazy the homeowners insurance situation is getting across the entire country, but more specifically here in Florida, it is just the worst when it comes to how expensive it is and how much people's premiums are going up and all of this. And this story that DJ sent me is out of St. Augustine, Florida. There's a woman there that owns a house that's 120 years old, and supposedly the roof on the house is the original roof. How does that work when you have a 120-year-old house? I have no idea. But her insurance went up to $36,000 for the year. That's more than some people put for a down payment on a house. That's insane. So now this woman is saying that she cannot afford for this to be her forever home, which she was thinking it was going to be, and it's in one of the historic neighborhoods of St. Augustine, which is why the house is so old. And she was originally with United Casualty Insurance, but they went insolvent last year, and now she got taken over by Slide Insurance. And that's something that we were talking about a few weeks ago, how some of these insurance companies are also going to be taking over Citizens insurance policies if someone else is offering you a policy within 20% of the cost of Citizens. And realistically though, this woman's homeowners insurance was already high before this increase, but now it's just astronomical. Before the increase, she had an $8,800 a year homeowners insurance bill, and now it's just jumped up and ballooned to $36,000. For that kind of money, she could do all sorts of things to the house. She could replace the roof, put on storm shutters, maybe hurricane-proof windows, all kinds of things that could probably lower her insurance premiums rather than sink it into just paying insurance. But it turns out it's not just happening to this woman. This is kind of one of the more extreme examples, but all of the new customers that are with Slide Insurance now that used to be with United Property Casualty are seeing increases in their rates up to 300%. So yeah, we have insurance companies that are willing to take over these insolvent companies or take people off of Citizens, but at a hefty price. And you know, just like I was saying in yesterday's video, what's going to be the catalyst to force people to sell their homes, guys? Is it going to be the recession, or is it going to be this? Is it going to be the astronomical cost just to own a home now? Just when you're looking at your homeowner's insurance, just when you're looking at the increase in your property taxes because your property values have skyrocketed, what's it going to be? How long can people afford to pay all this? This woman just said right here that she can't afford to. So is she going to sell the house? And if she does, who can afford to pay that $36,000 a year premium? More importantly, who would want a 120-year-old home with the original roof paying a $36,000 a year premium? That's insane. So she's pretty much saying that if she's forced to pay this $36,000 bill, she'll go bankrupt. And that just goes to show you the state of how fragile the average homeowner really is, because everybody likes to say, oh, you know, everyone's equity exploded and people are doing so great right now and the economy is bustling, but people are just one insurance renewal away from losing everything right now, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Now, if this happens to you, the first thing you need to do is get in touch with your insurance agent and make them aware of this if they're not already, and see what they can do. See if they can find you an alternative. There might not be one if you live here in Florida besides Citizens. So that's something to keep in mind, but you need to get in contact with your insurance agent ASAP in order to see if there is something you can do about this, because I don't know who in their right mind would actually pay a bill like this. I could understand if you had a multi-million-dollar mansion on the water and your premium's $36,000 a year, but not for some average old house in the middle of St. Augustine's historic district. No way. No, no, no. And by the way, for anybody who's wondering, we are walking in the neighborhood that is right next to the Morningside Park from the previous video. And this is just such a beautiful neighborhood over here. Hopefully we'll run into some houses for sale. I haven't seen any yet, but there's a lot of shade over here, and that comes in pretty handy on a day like this. And to just put into perspective of how ridiculous this insurance price actually is, listen to this. Here's the next story I have for you. There is a cruise ship where you can live on board the cruise ship for $38,000 a year. And this is in such high demand right now that they're looking to find ways to accommodate more passengers because so many people want to do this. Now, a couple things. $38,000 a year, and you can live on this cruise ship, guys. That's a little over $3,000 a month. It comes out to $3,166 and change per month, which is not bad when you think about all the things that are included with living on that cruise ship. And that's pretty much the price of this woman's insurance renewal. So go figure. And apparently the cruise ship comes with all sorts of things. You know, they have pools, they have business centers, they have offices, they have cigar and wine bars, all sorts of different amenities that people enjoy about being on the cruise ship. And this ship is going to go all over the world. They're going to travel 130,000 miles by sea, and they're going to visit 135 different countries. So this is something that maybe a lot of retired people could look at doing, or even if you're a remote worker, right? If you're somebody that's looking to keep your living expenses low and have a lot of fun things to do, maybe this is for you. I've never been on a cruise before. I've never really wanted to go. I'm like terrified of being stuck at sea or having something happen to the ship, like it gets capsized, or you've seen some of these crazy things that can happen. Like at the end of the day, Mother Nature's in charge, and the ocean is going to do what it wants, whether you're in it or not. So let's go fishing should be the motto for this house, because they've literally been trying to sell this house on and off since 2009. Yeah, since the last housing market crash, this house has hit the market almost a dozen times, varying in price from anywhere from $3 million all the way up to $10 million, and the current price is $8.3 million. And why do I say go fishing? Because they're fishing for an imaginary buyer, because no one decided to buy this place since 2009. That's crazy. The one good thing is their property tax bill is still really low, because they paid a low amount for this house at only $17,000 per year. And apparently the demand for this is so high, it's making the price on everything jump just like regular housing, because the initial starting price for this was supposed to be $30,000 per year, but because of the demand, it's up to $38,000 a year. And of course, there's upgrades available from there. If you want an outside cabin, it went from $41,000 per year up to $65,000 a year. And if you want a cabin with a balcony, you're looking at $98,000 per year. So this can quickly add up. And if you're paying on the low end of this, obviously you're just staying in, you know, the bottom of the barrel room that the cruise ship has to offer, and probably it's only good for sleeping and taking a shower, and that's about it. So I don't know, is this something that you guys would be interested in? Is this something that you would look at as a lifestyle, as a way to escape the rat race and, you know, see a bunch of things and travel all over the world? Because this could end up being a pretty good deal for some people. If you look at all the things that are included, you know, it adds up, guys. You don't have to pay any utilities, so no electricity bills, no water bills, not even any internet bills. All that stuff is included, right? And then you have free medical visits, which is huge. If you live here in the US, medical visits are a huge pain in the ass, and they cost so much money. Even if you have insurance, you keep getting bills and bills and bills, like months and months after the doctor visit. It's insane. You can even avoid paying port taxes and maybe even some sort of income tax if you're working as an international resident on board one of these ships. So there could be a lot of benefits to doing this. Even include food and beverages. Only alcohol is not included. And of course, if you want to get off the ship and go and explore and see or do things off the ship at all the places they stop, that's going to cost you extra. But when you think about $38,000 a year being basically your entire cost of living if you didn't do anything outside the ship, that's not bad for being able to travel across the world. And if you can handle being stuck on this ship for 3 years, because that sounds crazy to me. But hey, I know a lot of people love being on cruise ships. This could be the answer to what you've been looking to do all your life, you know? And by the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, please remember to give it a like and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you never miss the next video that I upload. Now here's something interesting about the housing market is the CEO of the real estate company Compass, Robert Refkin, he thinks that as soon as mortgage rates drop to 5.5%, whenever that may be, that it's going to cause a flood of inventory on the US housing market because so many people are locked in at rates that are 4% or below, but he thinks that the 5.5% number would be the key figure that would basically encourage a bunch of people to get out there and list and try and get a different home. Now, something like that might not happen for quite some time, considering the Fed's policy right now is to keep rates high indefinitely until inflation goes back down. So we don't know how long that's going to take. Now, I think that he is correct in the sense that when interest rates come back down, that this will cause a lot of people to try and list their homes for sale and capitalize on selling and trying to get a new place when the rates are lower. But the thing that people forget about and don't realize is if there is a flood of inventory on the housing market, that's likely to make prices come down, guys. And even at 5.5%, your mortgage is still going to be pretty expensive at or near today's prices. So you also have a lot of people that wish they didn't buy the house that they did because they bought during the frenzy and are looking for ways to get out of it. I could see a lot of those people listing the house for sale as well. Another thing that so many people just don't think about is when interest rates start coming down, that's likely going to be due to the fact that we are in a recession and now the Fed is reversing its monetary policy to try and dig us out of it, right? So the other things that happen during a recession is typically unemployment goes up and the more forced selling begins to happen. I think he's right that we will see a flood of inventory when interest rates start coming down, because when rates start coming down, that's a sign that things are not good right now, and it's going to be the answer to fixing our financial problems, so to speak. And it's just so funny because so many people are trained to think that when interest rates come down, that's going to be the best time to buy. But the real thing you need to be looking at is when does the price come down? And if the lower interest rates lower the prices because there's a flood of inventory, well, that's good news because now you're going to really be able to get a good deal. You're getting a lower rate than you would today and a lower price. That would be fantastic. So we'll see. But these rates coming down all depend on one thing, right? And what is that? Inflation. And the inflation numbers literally just came out this week once again. But it's not going down, guys. It still went up 0.3% in May. The year-over-year figure for inflation right now is still at 4.6%. That's not going in the direction that the Fed wants to see it go right now, which is the main reason why we're likely to see interest rates remain high for a long time. And look, they paused during the last meeting, and what do we have? We have higher inflation now. Not much higher, but it's going in the wrong direction. It's not the direction that they want it to go in. So right now the markets are pricing in an 82% probability that they're going to increase rates at the next meeting, which I think they definitely will as well, probably by 25 basis points. Now here we have a massive house that just got listed for rent just a few days ago for $22,500 per month in rent. And these guys only paid $358,000 for this house back in 1996. And today, I'm willing to bet this house is worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million, maybe even more if you take that last listing as any gauge. But the property taxes are unbelievable at $40,000 per year. So they're going to need to collect at least 2 months in rent just to pay the property tax bill here. Even Jerome Powell himself recently just said at the meeting they had over in Portugal that, hey, listen, bringing inflation back to 2% is going to be a long process, and I don't see us getting back to 2% inflation this year or next year, meaning at minimum 2025, guys. And what do you think that these high interest rates are going to do to the economy and people's ability to spend and borrow money over the next 2 years? If we're basically guaranteed that we're going to have high interest rates from now until at minimum 2025, I think you're going to see a slew of more bank failures. You're going to see people just not buying houses, and you're going to see more layoffs, more bankruptcies, more of everything until things start to reverse bad enough that they do start lowering interest rates. And what did we just say? When they start lowering interest rates, that's because things are not doing well. Jerome Powell even said that the US is making steady progress on headline inflation, but that core inflation, which strips out food and energy costs, is slower. So he thinks nothing's really going to change or get better until 2025, and now the latest report shows that inflation is up 0.3%. Now here's something interesting I want to share with you guys. Last night I was speaking to a property manager here in Miami, and we were talking about why Miami is so expensive and why people continue to buy here even though the prices are astronomical, because the housing market here seems to show no signs of slowing down yet. And he thinks it's because we have so many people that buy here from New York. When you look at the inbound data of Miami and the amount of people that move here, New York is actually the #1 place in the entire country that people tend to move in from. He's seen a lot of people move here from New York, as have I, and when you take into consideration that it's still basically half the price to live in Miami versus New York, it's still a very good bargain for people looking to escape the high cost of living in the city up there. So now I have this new theory that maybe home prices in Miami won't really start coming down until the cost of owning real estate here is basically equal to or even more expensive than owning real estate in New York. Because as long as it's cheaper to buy real estate here than it is in New York, then that's likely to keep the market afloat here for quite some time, because there seems to be no shortage of people coming down and buying second homes or even investment properties, relocating here from that area. It is just nuts. Now, the next big story of the week that we already covered yesterday, but just want to mention for anybody who missed that video, is the student loan forgiveness that Biden promised just got shot down in the Supreme Court earlier in the week. So anybody that was counting on getting that $10,000 or $20,000 relief, it's not going to happen. So if you were banking on that and waiting to start making payments to see if this was going to happen, I wouldn't be waiting any longer, guys. I would get back to it and just start making the payments as soon as you're required to, because the last thing you want to do is miss a payment and take the huge hit on your credit score, which is going to affect how much you can borrow or pay for anything else in the future. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover, which this whole video to me is just kind of like a recap of all the things I've been covering and basically the latest updates on them. And I thought it was cool that I came across all these stories to actually put into one video, this mishmash. And since I've literally talked about all these topics in depth with recent videos, it's cool to see that we actually have updates on everything. And that's one thing I hope to do more in the future on the channel, is just kind of round out some of these topics that we've talked about over and over again and give people the latest update on what's happening. And sometimes it just makes sense to throw them all into one video like this. So let me know if you guys like this type of thing. You know, do you like getting all these different news stories in one video? Or do you like it more when I kind of stay on the same 2 or 3 topics and focus and dial it in more? Let me know in the comments. Because the last thing I want to cover, which I made an entire video about last week, was the homeless problem in California, okay? I made a whole video talking just about that. Talk about focus, right? Well, the most recent news on this is that the homeless population has risen another 9% in Los Angeles County and 10% within the city of Los Angeles just in 1 year, guys. That is unbelievable. For the amount of money that the state of California throws at the homeless problem, it is just exploding and spiraling out of control. And these numbers reflect it. In fact, look at this graph showing just how much the homeless population has been climbing since 2015 in the county of LA and the city of Los Angeles, respectively. It is unbelievable. You're looking at 75,000 homeless people just in LA County. That's bigger than most small towns throughout the entire country. The small town that I grew up in had like 25,000 people in it. And the worst part is the amount of chronic homeless people that they counted, which are basically people that have been homeless for a year or longer, went up 18% year over year. So the problem is not only getting worse, but more people are becoming homeless and remaining homeless for longer. But yet California just keeps throwing more money at this problem, and now they're proposing another $1.3 billion to throw towards this. Like, when are people going to wake up and realize that that's not working over there? And this latest report is just like the in-your-face of that. Like, look, you guys throw billions of dollars at this, and yet your numbers are going up exponentially, you know? at this rate, you know, they're gonna have more homeless people than they're gonna have regular citizens over there. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you click the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I post a new video. And if you don't wanna wait, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.